Hey, welcome back to Mornings with the Mayor. I'm your host, Mayor Robert C. Dye. We're back taking another inside look into what's happening in Farmers Branch. And, you may not know it because we usually post these a little bit later, but today is election day. And while I'm sure many people were wondering where I'm at the polls, I wasn't going to miss an opportunity to talk with today's guest, which is our esteemed and soon to be retired Director of Communications, Tom Bryson. And so wanted to have kind of a final chat and exit interview with them before, Jeff Brady comes in, takes over. I know he's working alongside Tom right now and is kind of being given the reins, but Tom's had a long and distinguished career here at the City of Farmers Branch and knows where all the bodies are buried somewhat. And so, wanted to kind of just dive in, you know, maybe tell his story a little bit, but then talk about the communications process and kind of where we've started, where we are now, and where we might go. But just want to welcome to the show, Tom. How you doing?
Hello, Mayor. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's a little nerve wracking coming in with the professional in these type of things, but
Oh, the nerves are on my side, I guarantee you.
well, you've been coaching me up for like the past, I think we've been doing this for about 9 months now. Pretty much ever since
Good.
COVID hit is a different way to try to communicate not only with our constituents, but give people a little peek behind the curtain in terms of, how are some of the ideas and programs and things that we're doing in the city kind of implemented, and where do they come from, and where do these conversations kind of stem from that, you don't get to see all the time. And so I appreciate you jumping on board with me to find a new avenue and take a risk in terms of different way to just put out some more communication for our city.
Always happy to do it. And this has turned out to be just tremendously successful.
Well, that's good. You kind of want it to, and I just kind of want to, we'll jump right in here, but let's go back kind of into your history in terms of how you got to the city of Farmers Branch. And I know that you and Lauren Sanchez, who was our emergency management specialist, who we had a previous conversation with, have a lot in common. And I know you two have talked as well about your past growing up in similar situations. And so, what was it like growing up and kind of, being adopted and living with, the family that kind of helped raise you?
Absolutely. Always happy to talk about my family because I remain one of the most blessed people you will ever come across. Lauren and I have had this conversation before, in that we're both adopted kids, although we had very different journeys. Lauren was adopted much later in life. I was while still an infant. Born in New Orleans 61 years ago, if you can believe that, and adopted at the age of 2 months by a family in Shreveport, and who quickly and immediately became my parents. I will always be a proponent of the fact that blood does not make family. It's what happens in the heart. It's love. And my parents are my parents, and will always be my parents. They're both gone now, but I have them to thank directly for the life that I've been afforded, that led to college and to this career, and the family I have now, and everything. So it was really tremendous. I'd always wanted to be in the newspaper business for some reason. I don't exactly remember how that originally came about, but I started a paper in the fifth grade. It was a single sheet front and back, and published, I think, a grand total of 2 issues. But it was a start, and that led eventually to pursuing journalism at LSU about 300 years ago, when it was still a journalism degree and not a communications degree. And then work in the newspaper business as an incredibly small-time reporter in both Northwest Louisiana and East Texas, at a number of different papers. But it was really serendipitous to wind up working for the paper in Duncanville in 1987, the Duncanville Suburban. I had in fact been laid off from two different jobs in 1986 when I was still living in the Shreveport area, and just happened to pick up a copy of the Dallas Morning News at a 7-Eleven one day when I was trying to find a job, and saw this advertisement for the paper in Duncanville was offering jobs for both a reporter and an editor. So I called and interviewed, and 2 weeks later, I'm moving to Dallas Fort Worth. That afforded me a great opportunity to get to know the people at the city there by covering the city. Developed great relationships, and that's when the serendipity really came into play when the police department there suddenly discovered they needed a public information officer. I applied for the position, was fortunate enough to be selected, and that all of a sudden was 31 years ago.
My goodness. 31 years ago. And, I'm just shocked because maybe I just didn't know the reach of the Dallas Morning News, but I'm assuming that you picked that paper up in Shreveport and saw the ad for Duncanville. So that makes its way all the way out there, which I don't
Now,
know.
granted, that was the mid 80s, and when the Sunday paper was about that thick. And
All the
while
opportunities
back.
and cars that you can buy. I don't know
Oh,
that
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know that I've seen a paper in quite some time. But I'm assuming that it was was it here in Dallas where you met your wife?
Indeed. While I was still a reporter at the Duncanville Suburban, um, we had a mutual friend who was the theater teacher at Duncanville High School. My wife, my future wife at the time, was the speech and debate coach at DHS. And our mutual friend, the theater teacher, thought that we might enjoy meeting each other. And turns out she was right. I think, let's see, I believe the first date was like 3 weeks after we met, and we were engaged 3 weeks after that.
That's incredible. Wow.
Waited till spring break to get married because we wanted to take a honeymoon, and she was teaching, so it was the way it happened.
Well, that works out. You gotta plan it just right. But did you was your wife able to give you any tips, knowing that you'd eventually be behind the camera and doing more forward facing stuff on some of the speech techniques, or have you just always had a natural kind of just a knack for that?
A lot of what I developed over the years, quite frankly, and I leave it up to the judgment of people that are more knowledgeable than I am as to how effective it is. But I just try to mimic a lot of what I see other people do on TV. To whatever degree that's been successful, that's good. But no, Michelle was always able to help me refine the message a little bit, especially early on when we were still trying to figure out how to do this job. But also, while she was still a speech and debate coach, that was an interesting job in that it required her to travel like 20 weekends out of the school year, and with the team to different tournaments. And so for those weekends, pretty much if I wanted to see her, I needed to go to the tournament, and I wound up judging a number of those tournaments, both Lincoln Douglas debate and extemporaneous speaking. The LD, I was just faking it the whole way. I didn't have any clue what was going on, but I pretended like I did. Extemp was a little bit easier to wrap my head around, and I was able to pick up quite a bit from that.
Yeah, as I always say, fake it till you make it.
Exactly.
Imitation is the best form of flattery. So I'm assuming the people that you copied, they probably would have been glad and impressed that you were using that inspiration.
Hope so.
Yeah, but I guess kind of jumping into just communications and how we as a city need to get our message across. Apart from the obvious, like what's changed the most in terms of connecting with people from when you first took the job at Farmers Branch through, okay, now the internet's coming and this is, email and everything's changing from
Sure.
the point, and then we're getting into social media, and then just a constantly connected world. How's kind of that evolved for you, and what?
It's interesting. It really is interesting in that Farmers Branch has always been ahead of the curve when it comes to communicating with the public. When I got the job moving from the city of Duncanville to Farmers Branch in 1999, 22 years ago, the communications office had been in place for about 14 years at that point. So well back into the mid 1980s. My predecessor had been there for that long. But of course, the way we did things back then differs dramatically from the way we do them today, although there are obvious commonalities. When I got here in 99, there was a website. It was under the old convention for municipal websites, that is ci.farmers-branch.tx.us, which was cumbersome to say the least. But the website at the time was little more than an electronic brochure. There wasn't a whole lot of reason to go back to it once you've been there once. So the evolving nature of the city's web presence has always been and will always continue to be a work in progress. Something I think we've taken some pretty good strides in the past couple of decades, and something that I know Mr. Brady is taking on going forward from here with another new iteration of the website coming up in the coming year. Obviously, the information age, if you will, has a great deal to do with how we get the information out, what kind of avenues we use to get that information out. When I started 31 years ago, there was actually a typewriter on my desk. Kids Google it. It's a lot of fun. There wound up being a first computer in the whole organization in my office eventually. And one thing led to another. And of course, we're at a point now when you can't live without them. But there are so many different avenues we use to get the message out, to tell the city's story. We try to maximize as many of them as we can, be it social media, be it electronic news. Television is kind of interesting in that back when everybody had in the business what we call a PEG channel, Public Education of Government. So we're obviously the G part of PEG. So we have a government channel and everybody would produce meetings to put on the government channel, and maybe they could produce another video about something to put on the government channel. And oh, by the way, let's put it on that newfangled YouTube thing. Nowadays, of course, it's exactly flipped. We produce video primarily for social media dissemination. And oh, by the way, let's put it on the channel at the same time. At its heart, the story and how we try to tell it doesn't really differ that much. It's just the avenues that we try to get it out on. And that has been the biggest challenge over that time, is just trying to stay ahead of that curve and make sure that we know what's coming next. And the trick, of course, is to figure out what has staying power. And Twitter and Facebook, we figure, are pretty much here to stay. MySpace, on the other hand, didn't live very long. And I still don't understand Snapchat. That's just me. But
You want to talk about TikTok then?
yeah, let's not get there quite yet. But the way we tell the story hasn't changed that much. It's just the different avenues we use to get it out.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing, just thinking about like in terms of the different avenues, and now that you say that you're producing for YouTube and social media dissemination rather than the old kind of historic, we're just going to put this on the public access channel and we're going to produce it for that. And when you have a generation like mine, who is literally everyone's cutting the cable and moving towards more of that a la carte kind of TV programming kind of methodology, how has viewership changed in the ability to kind of track that information? Like, are we seeing about the same amount of viewers across all the platforms, or because a lot more people are cutting the cord, that viewership has actually gone down from the TV side and some of those other things? Because you'd probably have to know, hey, I have to go to the website to be able to pull this up on my TV and watch it, because it's not readily available through YouTube TV or Hulu, unless
Right,
I'm missing.
right.
I haven't
That
seen it. I mean, of course, I'm at the meeting, so of course I'm not going to see it pop up live while I'm there. But it's just thinking through that. How's that kind of been impacted?
being able to track who watches or how many people watch is always a challenge. The cable companies, or whichever name they're going under at any given point, um, do not invest in trying to give us those kind of metrics. So that's always a guess at best. Right now our channel, our stream, whatever you want to call it, goes out in multiple ways. We do go out on the Access channel. We also go out streaming on the website at farmersbranchtx.gov. We also go out on AT&T Uverse, channel 99, which is their portal to all of the government access channels throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We have also just added live streaming on YouTube. So the council meetings now stream live on YouTube and on Vimeo, and are available for replay there as well. On those kind of platforms, those will give us some better numbers, in that we can actually see how many people click on it, how many people go and take a look, how many people are looking at any given point. Having spoken with colleagues through the years about this very thing, how to get those kind of metrics, we're all stymied by the same thing. The traditional way of looking doesn't really afford us much in the way of getting a good idea of who's watching or how many people are watching. However, one thing we do know for sure is when something goes wrong with the broadcast, we do hear about it. So there is someone watching. There are people watching out there. And when you look at those YouTube streams and those Vimeo streams, yeah, it's not massive thousands, but I think in most cases, people find out that it's more people than they may otherwise believe. Now, when it comes to the other channels, the other ways we get the information out, those are a little bit more tangible. E-News is probably the biggest success story we've had over the last decade, that being Branch Bulletin. Branch Mail before that, Branch Mail being the single topic email blasts we've been sending out for almost 20 years now. We added Branch Bulletin, the once a week e-newsletter, in 2011, and it's been coming out every week without fail ever since. There are about 10,000 people on that subscriber list. So the information gets out to at least that many, in addition to the information being copied again on social and in the different platforms. We try to take advantage. We try to make city media unavoidable, is what it amounts to. We want to put it in front of as many people in as many different ways as possible. So hopefully the message is received.
Yeah, and that's a question I wanted to ask too, because I receive all the emails and kind of see them come through. Yet I still hear from members of John Q. Public that oh, well, you guys are trying to slide this by us or not do that, and it's like, I've seen it been communicated many times. You have your council countdown before every council meeting that gives a high level synopsis of here's what we're going to be discussing, and kind of give people just the brief version of what we're going to be discussing, so that it's transparent. Every document that we're looking at or reviewing is available through the website, and I just feel that. Or some people just, even though they're getting the emails, are they not reading them, or what's kind of or is it just more of kind of the misinformation that kind of circulates through any community, where
yeah,
spend stuff the way they want because they're not happy about something getting done, or they're happy about something getting done. I don't know. It's just, it's interesting to me to hear a lot of that when I know that we have so many different avenues that we push information out to them at. It's like, well, how did you not get this?
It is a challenge that, and again, I'm going to fall back on a number of my colleagues across the state and the nation, because we talk about these things a lot. I am very fortunate to have had the opportunities to serve as president of both our state and national associations of people that do what we do. So it affords us the chance to really compare notes with people across the state and across the country. And everybody experiences this. Part of it, I think, has to do with, you know, I like to consume my information a certain way. You like to consume your information a certain way. So everybody's going to have their preference. That's why we try to hit as many of those possible avenues, as many of those possible media as we can to get it out there. However, and this is nothing that is anyone's fault necessarily, but in the short attention span society that we find ourselves, if it's not getting to you immediately, if it's not getting to you in front of your face right now, then maybe it's something you didn't see. It's not for lack of trying on our part to get it to you, but maybe you didn't see it. And if there's something we can be doing better, that's always something we want to evaluate and something we want to try to get a better handle on. We do rely on the citizen satisfaction survey, and this is getting back into metrics just a little bit, to kind of give us a better idea of what people are using and how. For the longest time and extending up till now, we do ask two specific questions, one of them being, what is your primary source of city information? But then also, what else do you use? So what is your favorite? What's your go-to? But what else do you use to get that to get your information? 70% plus to this day still want the branch review, the print newsletter that comes in the water bill. So we make sure that gets to as many people as possible. It gets to everybody that gets a water bill in the city. It goes to every apartment in the city. It's 17,500 that get out there. But the other thing that has made a dramatic rise over the last 5 or 6 years is that e-news product that I talked about before. The first year that we had e-news out there, the number of people that were taking advantage of it was down in the 20% range. 4 years later, it was up in the 60s, and it's taken off from there. So again, it's about, as far as I can see, it's about diversifying the field in which we're trying to get the word out. And it's going to be a perpetual work in progress to make sure it not only gets in front of someone, but gets to their attention. And that's why we always want to try to, if someone tells me they didn't see something, I want to try to look and see why. Website is a good example. 9 out of every 10 times we hear that somebody said that something they were looking for is not on the website, it's there. They just weren't able to find it where they thought it should be. And so is that something we can be doing better? Is that something we can be improving navigability on? That's all part of the work that we try to keep going forward.
Yeah, and I know we've made a lot of strides here recently in terms of the way, you know, the website's kind of working, the way we engage with it in terms of, you know, hopefully making it easier to find the information, like you said, that people are seeking. And, you know, that's an ongoing process and always will be, because you can always make it a little bit easier for people. But, you know, in terms of the metrics, you know, I enjoy data and diving into it. And I know you and I have had conversations about, well, what are we looking at in terms of, you know, impressions? What are we looking at in terms of people that have actually engaged with it, and for how long? And right. What are the metrics to understand where we're going? And, you know, in terms of evaluating those for future success and finding trends that are allowing us to better communicate, you know, how are you using those numbers as you're looking through YouTube or, you know, Vimeo, or, you know, just any of the social media feeds that we have, in terms of who's engaging and how? And, you know, have we, you know, it's, you know, I'm going to ask it anyways, but, you know, what push or, you know, implementation have we done ever with maybe some like A/B testing, you know, where we send two things out that have the same information in different ways, to see which way people are engaging with it, to say, okay, this is actually attracting more people, they're engaging with it more, to let's craft this message kind of this way a little bit more, as we work through that, to just kind kind of see and feel, what's working best or what could be better?
There's a couple of different answers to that. One of the things, one of the things that I fall back on is, and this is kind of an aside, but back on the branch review, the print newsletter, when we went to a monthly schedule, placing them in the water bills, you have to take into account the water bills come out on 3 different cycles. So they come out for cycle 1 on the 7th of the month, cycle 2 on the 14th, and cycle 3 on the 21st. We had it dated for the month of those cycles. However, the information we put in there purposefully was always for anything that would be good after the 21st. We didn't want anybody that was on the 3rd cycle to think they were getting old news just because it was dated in October and didn't get it till October 23rd. That didn't matter. The psychology of the thing was this is October and October is almost over, so this is awful. So the only thing we did is we started dating it a month back. So now the November issue comes out in October and the December issue comes out in November, and that seemed to really quell that. When it comes to anything else, one of the biggest experiments we typically engage in is back on e-news. And that's when it comes to really subject lines. Subject lines tend to be the front door to any particular email, as anybody knows these days. It's going to tell you if that's something you want to open or not. It's going to tell you if it interests you, if it grabs your attention, something that you want to take a look at. And so there are some weeks I put as a subject line for branch bulletin, hey, branch bulletin, e-news from the City of Farmers Branch. Boom. Leave it at that. And historically, that gets fewer opens than anything that has more of a dramatic hook to it. We do a measured scorecard every month where we take a look at the metrics for those for social media, for the e-news, not just how many we send out, but how many impressions they generate, how many times it's gotten in front of someone. That informs us of what is at least being used. A closer examination of that, I think, is warranted going forward to try to figure out how to refine those channels and make sure that we are maximizing them to the best that we possibly can. One of the things I've also been very fortunate to be a part of is the Certified Public Communicator program at TCU, which affords graduate level study for public sector communicators. It's the only program of its kind in the nation. For so many of us that came to this kind of job from journalism, in school we were taught how to cover government, but nobody ever taught us how to be government. It's been on the job training for however much long we've been at it. This program affords us that opportunity to really take a step back and have graduate level study and learning how to be government and measuring how to take those metrics and turn them into something tangible. And so, again, that's an ongoing process as well, something that I know Mr. Brady is attuned to and will be probably taking much deeper dives into as the years go on.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about those metrics and the different way that you might be able to, get an understanding of how people are engaging with our city, the idea has been brought up before. And, anytime I start thinking about aggregating data and trying to figure out how best to find that signal and noise to, give us a better idea of what we need to be doing to move forward or what's working or not. I go back to the idea of city-based apps that, is your rec center card on there? Is your passes to our events in there? Some of these other things. So we know who is going to what, when, and where. And as information comes through that, does it become your one-stop shop secondary website that allows people to set up notifications for what they want that pop up at the top of your phone, rather than it's just, hey, I just got another email, or some of these other things that allows people to click through on a more frequent basis. What do you find that there would be, a benefit in something like that? And, as past president of 3C MA, which is impressive in its own right, talking with other communicators or directors of communication from other municipalities, what has been some of their experience or thoughts behind some of that, or using a tool like that to, not only communicate, but, get a better understanding and hopefully a better way of understanding how to use resources?
One of the problems that everyone has is where we are in the technological world these days is obviously technology has gotten to a point where things are more integrated than they ever have been before, but maybe they're not where they need to be just yet. We have, of course, a new enterprise system coming into the city right now that's helping us to put a lot of those eggs in the same basket, if you will. This is kind of a soft announcement, but part of the process of the new website is going to be the implementation of a new app for the city. So a lot of that will be looked at. But due to bandwidth limitations, if you will, just on the strength of manpower, the website's going to come first, and that's going to be a little bit further down the line. What we hear from other people is an app is a good thing, but trying to centralize those kind of processes is not something that a lot of folks have had great success with just yet. Doesn't mean we're not going to get there. It certainly makes a lot more sense, and something that I hope all of us will be able to move towards sooner than later.
Yeah, is it more about the functionality of it that makes it difficult, or what's been some of the challenges? I guess.
Well, I think just that so many different departments historically, and I'm not just talking about our organization, but across a city organization, so many different departments have utilized different third-party platforms for situations, and that's hard to put them all under one umbrella. With enterprise resources that a lot of folks are going to like the system that we're in the process of a multi-year implementation for, that'll make things like that much easier. And when we're, and I'll be honest, I don't recall the timeline of exactly when that's due to be completely installed, but once that is more in place, we will be in much better situation to have everything in one place, as it were.
Yeah, and I mean that is a good point. I mean, compatibility of products definitely helps
Absolutely.
a little bit easier, because you just see a world where I can pull up the app and, oh, here's the events for Friday, but I can
Right.
point out a hole in the road here at the same time and do some of this other stuff, so that everyone's kind of that one stop
Well,
shop.
and to that end as well, Mayor, I should add that mobile compatibility of the website factors into that as well. Um, two website iterations ago, we had a really good looking, robust website, but the mobile optimization of it, that is the way it looked on a phone, was really, really dismal. Text heavy, not a lot of graphical interfaces. The one we're operating off of right now improved that pretty dramatically, in my opinion. However, the new website that'll be coming in the new year, the mobile version of that folks will be able to see should be dramatically better as well. So that's not to say it takes the place of an app, but with so many people using mobile platforms to access their information, it is as important to make sure that the way the website appears on mobile is compatible as well.
Yeah, and that's something we've focused on, not only at my firm, but also my personal stuff. Making sure when I start with website design and some of that other stuff, I start on the mobile and then work backwards through through a tablet to a computer desktop from there, because the studies have shown they're going to engage more with the device that's always in their hand than when they're sitting at their computer. So making sure that it is easily to use and just designed in a very friendly way is definitely important. So glad to see you guys are tacking that for us. I'm sure people in the future in Farmers Branch will be grateful for that. But what is you kind of looking back, what would be one of the things you're most proud of in your time here, or one of the legacies that you're kind of leaving behind?
Wow. There are several things to choose from. Um, I'm proud of the teams that we've worked with through the years. It's been an evolving process, of course, since people tend to come and go. And as I'm in the process of going, I'm one of those people now. Um, but this city has had a world-class staff for years, up to and including the current staff, which is I would put up against anyone, any other city, for the quality of expertise that these folks bring to the table, and their ability to get stuff done. Working with these people has certainly been one of the big high points. I've learned so much more about government since I've been in Farmers Branch than I did in my first city job. Um, I'm proud of some of the I'm not going to call them innovations, but programs that we've implemented over the years. The council agenda show. We used to call it City Council Tonight. We call it Council Countdown now. We've been doing that in some form or fashion for almost the entire time I've been here. So that's better part of 20 years. That's something not a lot of people did back when. A lot of them started once we did. We had a lot of requests from folks. How do you do that, and what do you go about doing? So I'm happy that has not only been had a lasting impact, but something that others have been able to embrace. It's one of the things that we talk about in this business is, imitation is in fact a sincerest form of flattery. And if someone rips off your idea, that's a trophy right there. Um, and then back to e-news, being able to implement the e-newsletter almost 10 years ago, and the fact that we've been able to publish it every week without fail since the first week of March 2011, I think speaks well to the people that we have, the ability to keep that going forward. And that's far reaching beyond the communications office. That's all departments that contribute content that get us the information to get out there. But I do have to shout out the folks that work directly in communications, particularly Amanda Johnson, who has our communication specialist, who's been there actually 6 months longer than I have. She does a lot of the heavy lifting on the website, day to day, social media, as well as a number of other things. But one point in particular, back in 2016, long story short, between a personal health issue and a family health issue, I was out for the better part of 2 months, and she knew that Branch Bulletin was a priority and not letting a week go by. And so she did most of the work I did as much as I could remotely, but she did most of the work to make sure that continuity remained in place. So those kind of things are what I'll take away from it and what I'll always remember about it. As a PIO, for those that aren't familiar with the term, public information officer, that is the person that winds up talking to the press most of the time on the part of an organization. That, considering all of the headlines that we have generated over the past 2 decades, has been a real master's course in how to interact with the media, how to talk to the media. Hasn't always been particularly pleasant, but it's always been effective. And I hope that we've generated a good reputation with not just Dallas-Fort Worth media, but the national media as well, as being approachable, as being somebody that they can work with. We may not always have the right answer for them. That is the answer they're looking for, but we'll always get back to them and make sure they know that we're working on it and trying to get what we can.
Well, you and your team have done an amazing job. And, I just wonder, when you think about, the number of times that you are in front of the media or the news and helping, share the story in the way that, definitely gives the truth, but in a way that definitely doesn't, hopefully damage the city. How concerning is it sometimes for you when, all elected officials, me all the way back to everyone before me, we're all different. We all have very different personalities.
Very true.
And different temperaments. Like, does it ever concern you when the media just reaches out to us directly, and then we're allowed to just cowboy out there with responses and ideas without first running them by you? Or
Let's say this diplomatically. Uh, Certainly not in the current environment that we have. I've particularly working with you and your colleagues on the council today. I typically have a great deal of confidence in y'all's ability to impart a message. We try to make sure that you've got as much of the right information in case you're approached directly, and that's always been the policy, to try to make sure that mayor and council have the information that they need to be able to tell the city side of a story if approached directly. But y'all always know that you can refer back to our office, and we'll try to get what information that we can out there. Of course, that's more challenging at times in history than it has been at other times, but typically it's never been a calamity. It's always been something we've been able to manage, and it's worked.
I think that was as diplomatically as you could have put it. But
That's
yeah,
31 years of doing this.
yes. So, with some of that and knowing, that you have some of those obstacles, what has been the biggest challenge for you in this role over the last, few decades?
I will keep that in generalities, if I may, but there have been a couple of occasions over the last couple of decades that the name Farmers Branch in the press wasn't always equated with good things. It's something I always took very seriously, especially at that time, to try to make sure that we're continuing, first and foremost, as good a relationship with reporters and newsrooms as we possibly could. That was job one, making sure that they know they can come to us and we'll try to find out what is necessary. Those were always, well, not always, but frequently, those were tough questions that came to us on occasion. But because we were able to maintain that professional relationship, I think reporters always knew that they were going to get a fair answer from us. They were going to get as much information as they could, and I think for what it was, it worked, and it was certainly an education. And I think Farmers Branch is better on the other side for what we have gone through, and been able to emerge as a very progressive, very welcoming community that a lot of folks really want to get into.
Yeah, no, it's been great to see kind of the revitalization and kind of I guess the good that I hear around the region in terms of people looking to us not only for programming but for the different services and amenities that we provide to our community, because we do have an amazing staff that come up with these wonderful ideas. Everyone's definitely very innovative, and you can just tell that we've had that success by the amount of awards that are sprinkled throughout the various departments through City Hall, many of which reside right behind my office in the communications department. And so, you and your team have done an amazing job. And considering that and knowing that, Jeff, who will be he's here, but will be taking over full time rather shortly, comes from one of those news outlets that we definitely tried to keep a great relationship with. But what words of wisdom would you impart on Jeff as he kind of prepares to fully take over and navigate this ship?
Well, for anybody that doesn't know yet, Jeff Brady is the incoming communications director. He has a long history in TV news. Is a gifted communicator at getting information to an audience. So I'm very excited that he's going to be in the position to take all this over. The biggest thing that I've told him from the get go, and it's the first thing. It really is the first thing I told him. It's going to be the last thing on my last day. Is I can teach him how we have done this job for the past couple of decades, but what he really has to do is find out how he needs to do it. That's all anybody can do is take what's in place, but figure out how to make it work within the context of one's own talents and gifts. And I think he's is going to be extraordinary at getting that done.
No. And I have all the confidence in the world that Jeff will be able to take the baton and run with it. Kind of as you've kind of working with them as you kind of work your way out, but as we move forward as a city. But as you look to the future and you look towards retirement, what's next for you, and also what still kind of inspires you, because you're still somewhat young, and
Well, thank you.
a lot of life ahead of you. So
I hope so. I certainly hope so. A lot of people have asked me, "Wow, if you love the work that much, and if you love the people that much, why in the world do you want to do this now?" And that's actually a fairly easy call as well. I do love the work, and I do love the people, but it's been 31 years. I've been doing this literally half my life at this point, and it's time to turn the page. There's nothing magical about turning 60. However, you do get a few realizations, not the least of which is, okay, you're not bulletproof anymore. The aches and pains in the morning kind of substantiate that. But with a number of productive years ahead, if you want to get things done, then now's the time. So what's ahead is a number of different things. I've got some communications consulting work lined up that I'm looking forward to helping out some other municipalities if I can, maybe some smaller ones that don't have as much of a communications effort put into place. I'm also going to be working directly with 3CMA, our national association, to help membership development there, particularly right now when um, associations and travel is something that usually gets cut first in a financial crisis, which a lot of municipalities are facing right now. So trying to keep members on the rolls and involved is going to be something that I'll be taking part in as well. But we have some personal projects. I will tell you, this computer is sitting on a banker box right now that is full of my father's World War II stuff, letters, photographs, things like that he took or sent back from both Europe and the Pacific in World War II. In addition to that, about a month ago, we were in Houston visiting my cousin and his mother, that is my father's last remaining sibling, and they had a box from my grandparents' attic that may have been there for 50 years without being opened. I thought I had all my dad's military stuff, but apparently there's this other box that had his Army Field Manual, a map of Europe that traced his route once they landed in France and got into Germany and back out. A number of newspaper Stars and Stripes from back then and such as that. There's so much stuff I want to put some order to, and if nothing else, for family to know and to have going forward. So that's a personal project we want to engage in. And then, of course, as you know, my wife and I just purchased a townhome in Orlando. Our son lives there and works for Walt Disney World. And so we bought a house just 5 minutes off the North Gate. so that he lives in full time, and it'll be available to us whenever we're in town. So we're looking forward to splitting more time between Texas and Florida as years roll on. Mayor, you know that Disney's kind of a thing for us, and whereas I take some good-natured ribbing through the years about it, it really, and this gets back into what inspires me. It really is about a philosophy and an attitude. Yeah, we're talking about a big amusement park, but what we're really talking about is a business model that puts customer service second to none, and makes people feel special, makes people feel wanted, and that's something that for me as a communicator, for my wife as an educator, has always appealed to us and always drawn us, and we wound up visiting quite a lot when our son was young, which led him to want to be there and make a career there permanently, not using his degree in any way, shape, or form, but that's a conversation for another day. So that's something else we're looking forward to, is just spending more time. It's of course kind of a difficult time right now, but things will be looking up as we get into the coming year, I'm sure.
Well, you jumped into it before I could, but I was going to allude to, Taylor being down there in Orlando,
Right.
and working for Disney, which we all know you are very fond of. And I don't think the ribbing is from a place of, trying to
No,
hurt you.
not at
But
all. Not at all.
I've always maybe share some of the sentiment that you do as it comes to Disney, in terms of, what they stand for, in terms of not only how are we going to, treat people, but what's the experience, and how can we make it the most positive that you've ever had, in terms of customer service and just delivering on expectations, but not only delivering on them, going above and beyond. And it's kind of the same philosophy that made Nordstrom so successful in
Sure.
terms
Absolutely.
of customer service. Look at Sewell, the auto dealership here. It's that same mindset that, and I think, bringing that philosophy, which I know in the past we've done some training with the city to kind of, how do you bring that mindset to the city? I think it's wonderful, but it's a fascinating company, and from just the story of Walt, and how he took his dream and idea and turned it into what it is today, is an inspirational story by its own accord. And I just can't I guess account sorry I guess it's just, if you're gonna be fascinated and enthralled with a company, that might be one to definitely choose, because you get all the stories, you get all the excitement, you get the rides, you get the experience, and not everyone's offering that. But in terms of what we normally do, which you're well aware of, is kind of the rapid fire. I'm probably going to go more Disney route than anything here. And favorite movie or cartoon Disney has ever produced?
Favorite movie is Pirates of the Caribbean and Curse of the Black Pearl.
Okay. And why is that?
A good swashbuckling epic is something that we hadn't seen in a long time until this movie came out, and the character of Captain Jack was like something we'd never seen before. It was a lot of fun. The music was great. There's so many to choose from. I mean, that's really hard to nail down. If I was going back to my younger days, I'd probably be back to Mary Poppins, only because it was the first live action film Disney film I recall seeing when I was a kid. But now Pirates just kind of jumps out at me.
Okay. Favorite ride?
I'm going to go to Disney's Hollywood Studios and Star Tours, the Star Wars simulator, if you will.
Okay.
There's so much Star Wars related over there right now, but that's the original attraction that was over there. Then that's still a fave.
Now, I always have to go Space Mountain, but that's
Absolutely.
me. I don't know what it is, but love that ride. Favorite Disney quote?
Our greatest natural resource is the minds of our children.
Okay. That's a good one. And then final question I want to ask. what is kind of you know, the amount of knowledge and information you have about Disney is impressive. What would be the greatest fact that you acquired or have come to know that most people don't?
Wow. There are several to choose from there. Can I give you a multifaceted answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
The This is another thing that is kind of attracts my wife and I to the organization, just because the level of detail they go to, that even in a lot of cases people don't know about. And the Hall of Presidents in Florida at Walt Disney World, of course, there are representations of all 45 presidents there on stage. Their audio animatronics, they move, they breathe, some of them talk, et cetera, et cetera. FDR is depicted, as you might imagine, in a seated position. What you cannot see, and what no one would know unless you were told, is there are polio braces on his legs under the pants. It's just that level of authenticity that means a lot, just to the people putting the show together, to make sure that they've got that out there. Then another example, and there's so many to choose from, but another example is out in California at Disneyland. There's a train station in New Orleans Square. While you're standing there waiting for the train, you hear a telegraph going off in the station. I don't know how many people know Morse code these days or could read the dots and dashes as they're coming across, but that could easily be just any kind of random series of dots and dashes thrown in there for just a little audio ambiance. But it's not. It is in Morse code, Walt Disney's opening day speech from Disneyland on July 17th, 1955.
Really?
Yeah.
And that's something I've always admired about Disney, is that level of detail, because it's felt throughout, right? Like, I think, the way the buildings look and make it look like it's just expansive and you have a long way to go. But then when you're walking back the other way from a different angle, it looks shorter. So it feels like you don't have to go as far when you're tired.
Absolutely.
And it's fascinating. The underground tunnels, all the stuff, the way people that are in character have to act and behave. It's just, it seems that no detail was missed.
You're never more than 29 paces from a trash can.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Things like that.
They try to keep their grounds as immaculate as Augusta, I imagine. And so, that's just, it's fascinating. And I'm glad that you now have an opportunity to spend more time with just a stone's throw away from the place that you love and you and the family hold near and dear to your heart. But I do want to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. I've enjoyed at least the last 3.5 years working alongside you, finding ways to be creative, and you allowing me to explore some of my more wild impulses, in terms of communicating with the city and just different ways to get messages out there. But you're a trooper, a legend, and we're grateful to have had you and your leadership during this time. It's definitely going to be missed, but we know that you're leaving us in a good place. Otherwise, you wouldn't. And we're excited to work with Jeff and see what he brings to the table, especially, as you said, he needs to find a way works best for him and works best for the city. So just want to say thank you and kudos, and just truly enjoy that retirement.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks for, spending time with me today and going through a lot of different stuff and the different ways that we communicate with the city, the different ways that we're going to communicate with the city in the future. And, in regards to mornings with the mayor, this is the end of this show, but we'll definitely be back in a week or two with another episode, which I believe will probably be the exit interview for Councilmember Blackson. I know that he has a depth of knowledge with 13 years of service in the city, and no one has done more research and digging into what councils have done in the past, present, and it'd be good to dive in and see what's inside of that big old brain of his. So with that, I wish you all a good week, and we'll see how all the election stuff turns out. Hopefully by the time this is actually posted, we'll all know it could be a whole new world for everyone. But with that, just want to say we'll see you later.